Welcome back to Serve to Win. In this video, I want to talk about the all-important serve stance. Different serves require different stances, and using the correct stance enables you to reach your maximum serve potential. But before I get into that, it's very important that you know where to stand and why. Like all sports, some science and math comes into the equation. So let's start with the science. Physically, we are all built in a certain way. So this means we have a longer reach on our forehand side as compared to our backhand side, as you can see here. So my arm goes across my body, which means I don't have the distance as I would with my forehand, as I do with my forehand. Therefore, I suggest serving with your backhand side of the table. So this side for me as a left-hander. A small rule of thumb, if you're a forehand dominant player, you would want to cover 30% of the table and 70% of the table with your forehand. So 30% with your backhand and 70% with your forehand side. Some world-class players have lightning footwork. This means they may cover 80 to 90% of the table with their forehands alone. Now, if you're a more confident backhand player, then I suggest using a ratio of approximately 40% and 60% with your forehand. So backhand 40% and 60% with your forehand. But it's important to say that there is no real right or wrong way of doing things. It's what works for you. But you must find the best serving location that works for you and for the type of serve that you're performing. So you need to experiment with this to find what works for yourself. Obviously, you can serve from any location on the table, but you need to be aware of your angles. You must understand the angles which you create for yourself and for your opponent. This is called table tennis triangles. This is where the math comes into play. So we have table tennis math triangles. In table tennis, we have 3 different triangles. We'll call it A, B, and C. This position over here is A position. In A position, regardless of whether you're right or left-handed, the angles remain the same, as you can see here. I can go out wide to the left-hand side over there, and I can go down the line. I'm unable from this position to go out wide and fast to the right-hand side. So these are the angles from A position if I'm serving from this position over here. If I'm serving from B position, these are my angles. I can go to both corners, but I can't really catch a very wide angle like I'm able to do so from A position or C position. So here we are at C position. You'll notice how we can go out wide to the right-hand side, but we are unable to go out wide to the left-hand side, only down the line here. So C position, these are my angles. This is the triangle. And like I've said before, each triangle has a different angle. So if I'm on A position, I can go out wide to the left. If I'm in the middle, I can't really go out wide on either side, but I've got angles on both ways, left and right. And if I'm in C position, I've got a wide angle on my right-hand side. So just be aware of where you're serving from and what your angles are, and that hopefully will help you in terms of when you're playing against an opposition that might have a weaker wing and you want to expose that wing with a better angle. So just to illustrate the points and the angles, if I'm in section A, these are my angles. If I'm in section B, my angles become there. And if I'm in section C, my angles go there. Now that you understand the math and the science, we can talk about the serving stance. First of all, the backhand stance. So if I'm a backhand dominant player, I want to be standing slightly more towards the middle of the table and serving with my backhand. So I serve with my backhand. This allows me to play a backhand topspin generally, because I'm in a position to enable myself to play a backhand. For my backhand stance, if I'm too square, then it's difficult for me to rotate my waist. So I bring my legs round a little bit, which then allows me to really slice and cut across the ball to generate lots of spin on the backhand serve. So here's a nice little tip for you. Check your stance in terms of the positioning from the table. If you're too close, you're not going to be able to generate a lot of spin. And if you're too far, you're not going to be able to control the ball in terms of the length when you're serving. So for me personally, my stance is around one arm and one bat at a 45-degree angle. Okay, now the forehand stance. Base yourself at the corner of your backhand side, and your head and body should be parallel to the edge of the table. Note that this time, my non-plane arm and leg is in front of my plane hand leg. So my right leg is in front of my chest and my left leg is behind my back. This stance allows me to generate lots of energy on my serve and maneuver myself into a good ready position, especially if I'm a forehand dominant player. You'll notice my non-plane hand leg is in front of my plane hand leg. So this is in front of my chest, my right leg, and my left leg is behind my back. So it allows me to place my weight on here, just there. And then I can serve, and after the serve, I can turn and get into a good ready position to play either backhand or forehand. Here's a lovely tip for you. When you're in the ready position and then you throw the ball up, naturally your body goes up with the serve or with the toss. And as the ball comes down, you keep your body up. Therefore, most of the time you're going to contact the ball slightly high up and it's going to make the ball bounce high. What you'd like to do is, as you throw it up and the ball's coming down, let your body sink with the ball and then strike the ball. This will keep the ball lower, it will also give you good control over the ball, and it will help you navigate with your eyes the contact point. When you toss the ball, it's vital to follow the ball with your eyes. This enables you to focus on the execution rather than be distracted by your opponent or anything else around you. Of course, pre-serve, you should use your peripheral vision to assess your opponent's position and adapt your serve accordingly. Having a good ball toss is one of the most important elements when it comes to executing a good serve. And the importance of a ball toss is often underestimated. For example, if I served a pendulum serve, I can have any kind of ball toss, but if I do a reverse serve, then I probably want to keep my toss slightly lower. If your ball toss is different each time, your contact and spin will be different. Therefore, you are not in full control of what you're doing. Here is a nice exercise to develop your ball toss. You want to try and make sure that your ball toss is the same almost every single time. So for example, if I'm doing a medium ball toss, I would practice something like this. And you notice every time it's generally exactly the same. This enables me to have a consistent ball toss, and therefore I have a consistent high quality serve. Get a piece of paper and put it down approximately where you think your ball toss should land. And when you do the toss should hit the piece of paper every time. If it doesn't, you know your ball toss is varying all the time. So you want to try and make sure that your ball toss is the same every time. So when you're getting into your service position, it's important to have a routine. Most top players have a routine, such as bouncing the ball before they serve, or getting into a certain position and putting their thumb on the table, which means they have the same location every time. Often having a routine also enables you to be consistent and relaxed with your brain subconsciously, so you know exactly what you're doing, and therefore you can execute the same serve or a high quality serve every time under any given situation because you have a routine. So for example, for me personally, I have my right leg touching the corner of the table. What I also like to do is bounce the ball before I serve. Then I get into the position of the serve by putting my thumb on the white line there. And for me personally, I put my bat next to my hand just there. Some players like to do this or that. Doesn't really matter. You have to choose what suits you best. Once you have your positioning and routine, then you can serve and execute a top quality serve. Okay, so that is it for service stance and positioning. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Well, actually, I won't see you physically, but you know what I mean.